Hello, and welcome to Piano Tech Radio Hour, the weekly bridge to the future of the piano tech community. I'm David Anderson.
And I'm Ethan Janney. And we're here to ask great questions, and then we'll shut up and listen to some of the authorities, experts, and most outstanding personalities in our little world of pianos.
So, put on your best set of headphones, and let's get started.
Hello, everyone.
Hello. Hi, guys.
Everyone. Welcome.
Men and women of the craft.
Welcome to Piano Tech Radio Hour.
Welcome to
Good to see you all in this lovely
Wow, look at that.
year of our Lord 2021. We've made it.
Time is marching down the road.
Right.
Just
And
keeps
at the same
moving
time,
on.
time does not exist. Don't even worry about it.
Oh,
Yesterday is the same as today.
Ethan is in his quantum physics state of being at this point.
That's right.
That's handy. Yeah, time doesn't exist, man.
So we have a few people still jumping in, so I'll wait a second before I intro everything. Admit these people. Come on in, you people.
Come on in.
A little bit late, but
They're just waiting to put out their cigarette in the waiting room before they come on.
right. Having a little
Mr. Anderson,
conversation in the
good.
foyer.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, my whole family and my men's team all think it looks hip this way and to not grow it out again, and I'm look like a dick with my hair that's longer. So we'll see.
You look kind of like, you've got kind of like a Zen monk look.
Yeah,
you know?
I like
it's pretty solid.
I definitely
Yeah,
like
I also
Yeah.
dropped about 40 pounds. Now I'm about 35 down from where I had been for the last 20 years.
it.
So
I would say you're kind of halfway between a Zen monk and a Greek philosopher. I think that's
Oh,
a pretty
wow.
great place to live right there.
Wow, Jesus. I'd rather be a retired professional golfer or something like that.
All right, I'm gonna transition here to intro. We've let in most of the people
Yeah.
that are coming in a little bit late.
right.
So welcome everyone. Welcome over on Facebook and YouTube to Piano Tech Radio Hour, and this is a special production we've been doing since very early on in quarantine.
Do you know
It's
what
being
number
brought-
this is?
That's a good question.
Is it in the 20s, do you think?
We are somewhere around nearly 40 incarnations.
Holy,
of this particular
seriously?
program. Yeah,
Really?
totally. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, that's very exciting.
Wow, that's
just
awesome.
keep at it, We're here every week, and week by week we add episodes. So, like anything, it gets better with each repetition. Or it ebbs and flows, but on an upward trend, put it that way.
I figure it must
Okay.
have been at least that many, because I mean you're getting down near the bottom of the barrel here with me. So.
Oh,
Exactly. That's right.
Listen to that guy. Jeez.
So
All right, go ahead with the
actually,
intro.
I think it's the opposite, Dan. I think we're getting to the point where we've been around so long that everybody that was kind of...
We got a buzz.
We couldn't get him. We couldn't grab him. Just say, I got to do it now. It's not, even if I'm busy or whatever. Yeah,
Right.
It's a must. We're mandatory.
Because Dan Levitan is one of those shamanic nodes of the piano tech community, It must be cool now because Levitan's gonna come on.
Let Levitan bring the levitation. All right,
Yeah.
Let me do the intro here. We're being brought to you by Piano Technicians Masterclasses, an online educational resource that offers you cutting-edge instruction from piano industry masters like Dan Levitan without leaving your home. You can find out more at pianotechniciansmasterclass.com. I will let you all know up front that our next convention is coming together. This is very exciting. We're going to have some incredible lecturers for that, including continuing to bring in some people from the other side of the lake, the European piano technicians. Alex Kirsten from Steingraber and Stone is going to return for another lecture. We're also bringing in some of these, artisan crafts people that are doing some really unique stuff from Europe. We're going to bring in David Clavins. He's the guy that builds those pianos you got to climb a staircase to play. He studied
But
traditional.
the guy that I'm so excited about coming is Paul McNulty.
Yeah,
the
Paul McNulty.
finest period piano builder in the world. This is a kind of an opinionated rant. I'll just take 30 seconds. I've heard period pianos my whole professional life, and I've hated them. They sounded like wood and matches and sticks and stuff. I just not a fan. Then I heard McNulty's at the last conference. He played on the stage were two McNulty reproductions and another piano, and they were awesome.
Agreed. Agreed.
Yeah,
True that.
right?
I was
Right?
sitting, so it's a convention center, right? And the pianos are up there, and I was in the last row. So this is not built for acoustics. This
Right.
has the worst acoustics in the world. I'm
Right.
sitting in the back row. I'm hearing every note being played. It just was amazing. I was like, wow, these things can really cut.
This dude's a genius. It's this dude,
Yeah.
right? I've heard period pianos, half a dozen times over the years at conferences, and guys in costume, going from piano to piano, and like supposedly the best guys. And I've just no appeal to me whatsoever, that tone of those pianos compared to anything near a modern piano. These pianos sounded fantastic in their own way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not to be compared with a modern piano, but in their own way. They had power and sustain and majesty and musicality, So that guy's coming.
Agreed, 100%.
And subtlety
So,
and nuance.
Huh?
And subtlety and nuance in addition to everything that you said.
Absolutely.
Keep going.
Absolutely.
You just keep going.
Yeah.
That's better. That's
How
right.
you doing, Dan?
Good, good. You?
Okay, good to see you.
What's your backdrop there?
It's
Green
Piru
screen.
Creek feeding into Pyramid Lake, where I will be tomorrow morning at this time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very nice. So very
let's-
exciting stuff. And there's going to be other lectures there, which I'll just save for mentioning another day. But all excellent folks are going to be joining us. But we have here today Dan Levitan. As David Boyce said in the chat, I never met a shamanic node before. Apparently, I have met a shamanic node before. I've met Dan before. He's over there in Brooklyn, New York, right where I used to reside. Now I'm in Chicago. He can bring us all kinds of things today. We have some illustrations if we want to go there. He can talk about his tuning lever. He can talk about tuning theory. We can just shoot the breeze. We can take questions and answers. We're just going to play it by ear, whatever you all want from Dan. Dan, did you want to say anything up front to kind of set the tone or introduce yourself, or do you want us to?
Not particularly. I did have a question for David, which is
go for it.
The intro music to what I think of as the podcast, this radio hour. I was hearing it as there'll be some changes made. There'll be some changes made. And I'm like, well, that's an appropriate intro for a podcast that says it's about the future of the piano.
Yeah.
But is that what it is? Is that what that's all about?
Mr. Janney.
I know you're going to hit it back to me. So actually, we're going to have to research what the actual piece is. So, but we have some information, and we'll come back with it was because I thought maybe you would know what we use for the intro to the podcast, which we will be adding more episodes soon. We kind of fell off on publishing those because we had a lot of other things on our plate. But it is one of the recordings from David's recordings page on his website, and from an incredible jazz pianist. And
Couple of them.
it's just it's just the intro. So I don't think that is the cut. Like, I don't think that is
It's
the
not
name
the
of the
cut.
track.
Uh-huh.
Look on the website.
Yeah, we'll look on the website and
And
we'll get back to
it's
everyone.
it's a standard tune, though.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
not.
I don't think either of us knows off of hand what it is, because it is
No.
just the intro.
All right.
And then the outro, you were asking about that, and
Yeah.
I think it's Jelly Roll Morton, kind of a royalty-free
Makes sense.
track that's available.
Yeah,
But you
public
said you
domain
thought maybe,
track.
yeah, exactly.
Beautiful.
But you
Beautiful.
said you thought it might be who did you say?
I heard
the blind
maybe Art Tatum, but
Art
it's
Tatum.
like
It's
Mark Twain. You hear any great quote, and if people say, "Oh, Mark Twain said that," turns out he didn't say half the stuff, but he was so great with that. Everyone says, "Oh, it's got to be him." So
it
Let's
was
just say Mark Twain said it.
It was more country ass than Art Tatum. That's why it was Jelly Roll Morton, because it was more in the blues than in the jazz. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But Fleet Fingers.
Oh.
So Dan, I'll start off with a question to dive into talking to you. Tell us, if we may not look at them, but just give us a little bit more info on those graphics that I do have loaded up, just in case you want to go there. What did you bring along? Why did you think they might be fun to talk about?
Well, so one of my contributions to the field, I think, is a book I wrote about piano tuning and about the piano tuner's ear and the piano tuner's hand. And the section in the ear that I was particularly proud of was the kind of laying out of this concept of interval inharmonicity, which is something that I cooked up myself. And I think it explains a lot about what we do as piano tuners. And the other was a kind of way of looking at the physics of what happens when we turn tuning pins with a tool, with a tuning hammer. And I thought that was kind of a contribution to the field. So I thought if anyone was going to ask me about that, it'd be nice to have some illustrations on hand. But we certainly don't need to go that route. But that's why I sent them to you. Because I was trying to think, well, what are these guys going to ask me? What is David going to want to talk about? Is he just going to want to know what my daily life is like in Brooklyn as I run around tuning pianos?
No. I want to introduce you and then have you talk just in a laser fashion about your life, how you grew up, how you got into piano technology, and what it looks like now, today, just laser,
Okay.
But first I want to say that I first started having a relationship with you, 15 years ago or 20 years ago, something like that?
Something like that. At conventions, that's where it all happens.
At conventions, big fan of your book. Thought your invention was weird. I tried it a couple times and it's like, but people that I love and I love their tuning and I love them, love it. So, hey, for them, it's fabulous,
It's the transitive property of love. Clearly.
It's the transitive property of love, exactly. So I have felt your energy in our community for all that time, as I never called it a shamanic node, but there's something that's very powerful about the way your way of being in this craft and in this community. And I wanted to acknowledge that and sing your praises for that, because I think it's really important. I think holding a level of excellence in being a human being as well as being a piano technician is what I care about. And that's the heart of excellence also, is love, and that love bringing focus and attention and, you know, clarity and wisdom and all the beautiful things that are here rather than here, you know. And I've admired you about that for a long time. So, ladies and gentlemen, one of the, also a fabulous piano tuner. And he sees himself much more as a Vokes person, you know, a man of the people and a man of, you know, humble to fabulous pianos. And I respect that too, a ton. So just
We do
in
have-
like, we have a lot of questions, I know.
Yep.
So let him do his laser up till now, and then you can start asking him those questions, okay?
Rock and roll.
Well,
Go back.
laser might be hard, but
You'll do your best.
yeah. So yeah, I was in college studying music. Took a year off to go to North Bennett Street. This was back in '74, and just had a fabulous year. And once I went back to college, graduated, and was tuning pianos. And every time I tuned a piano, I got paid for it. So I kind of kept doing it, and that became my career. And I found a home for myself in this industry, but I kind of feel like a little different from many of the people that I really admire the most in this field. People like you, David, people like many of the people you've had on podcast who are really kind of born craftsmen. I was listening to Dale Irwin's conversation, and he said something that meant a lot to me. He said, I can teach you a lot about what I'm doing and a lot about, you know, my techniques and my tools and my approach, but I can't teach you how to care.
That's right.
And I was thinking, well, yeah, not only that, but everybody cares about something, but you can't teach somebody what to care about. And I feel like my place in this craft is, in this world where I found a home, is a little bit different from people like that, because they are true craftsmen. What they care about is, and I've seen it over and over, they get to that level because they cannot let a piano go until it is doing absolutely to the maximum that they can get it to do what they want it to do, till they've rebuilt it so that it's just a dream, till they've tuned it so it sings like crazy. You know, you have to have this kind of instinctive caring that you're just not gonna let it go until it's there.
That's right.
One of my colleagues here in New York, Dan Mansolino, one of the finest technicians I ever knew, he could pull an action in and out of a piano hundreds of times, and it didn't bother him. He was not going to stop doing it until it got to that point. And frankly, I'm not that person. I don't care about the actual physical object of the piano, the actual sound of the piano enough to do that. I'm not impelled that way. And so I knew pretty early on that I wasn't ever going to go that route. I never was attracted by or got into the concert recording world. It wasn't me. And it's interesting, when I first moved to New York, I got a job at a Stropsky piano company. And I thought at that point, you know, they had a shop, and it was one of the premier rebuilding places in the city.
Really?
And I kept wanting to move myself into the shop, and they kept saying, yeah, go tune pianos on the floor. And hey, we just sold a piano. You go out and tune it. They kept like pushing me out into the field.
Wow.
And I was
Did
like,
you know
I'm
how
going
to
to spend
tune
more
it?
time in the shop. And somehow they knew this guy is not for that. And they kept sending me out into the field. And it turns out that what I really care about in this field is the ideas. This is what I will never let something go. I will come back to it over and over and over again until it's the way I want it. But it's not a physical thing. It's not a piano. It's an idea. When I was at North Bennett Street, we were tuning. We had this miserable melody grand up on the top floor, and that's where you went if you were bad. It's like you go up and tune the melody grand.
The
And we would
detention
wrestle with
piano,
it
right?
over and over again.
Yeah.
And of course, it didn't behave like we were told pianos were supposed to behave. You'd tune it and it didn't sound like it. And one day Bill said, and his associate at that time was David Betts. He said, well, Dave or I, if we wanted to and we spent enough time on it, we could probably get a decent temperament on this thing. But what would be the point, right? It's a little spin it, right? So you just do the best you can. And that just bugged me. It's like, there should be a way to understand what's going on in there and master it so you could actually tune a decent temperament on there, at least know what you were going to get. And I just,
Or at least tune the best you can do, the best that you can hear to do, with your
so I wouldn't let that go. And eventually that's what led me to come up with this idea of, what is inharmonicity? What is string inharmonicity? What is interval inharmonicity? How does it affect the beat rates of intervals on pianos? And I couldn't let that go. The same thing with the physics of tuning hammers. I'd hear all kinds of stuff about, the head's got to be short, it's got to be close to the plate, or it's got to be a nice flat angle or a steep angle. It's like, what is this all about? And it's another thing that I just couldn't let go until I had something that I was happy with. So I feel like I care a lot about aspects of this craft, but they tend to be more sort of the ideas and concepts than the physical.
I understand, but those are that
I tune a lot for high level players. I've done my share of recording work, concert work, but it's not something that I'm drawn to and that I get a huge amount of satisfaction from. What I get satisfaction from is being sort of the country doctor, the guy that will go into any situation. If there's a 5-year-old kid who's going to be taking lessons on this Jansen console, what can I do that's going to make this piano be the best it can be? And I love that kind of challenge. I will go into that. I care about that, and I'll go back to that over and over again. And you can take the high-end pianos.
Yeah.
David, you can tune them. Dale, you can rebuild them. God bless you. I'm glad you're there. You're the ones that are defining really what is the level of our craft. But I feel like there's a place in this world for people like me too. And I feel like I found that place in the world.
To an insanely profound degree, number one. Number two, your love drives you no matter how it manifests. That's the beauty of the craft. You can have whatever practice you want.
Right.
You
and I think
literally can.
Don't say, well, I want to be like that guy unless you love what he loves. If you
Figure
love
out
what
you love,
that's going to be the engine that will power you forward. And if your engine's going in a different direction than you want it to go, it's not going to work out. Find out where your engine is going.
Says every successful person who's ever been successful at anything. They're saying exactly what we're saying right now. That's why love is the answer to excellence. It really is.
Yeah.
If you don't love it, then you're not going to pay attention to it. If you're not going to pay attention to it, nothing is going to happen.
Right. On the other
So
hand,
we got
you can't make yourself love it, and you can't make yourself pay attention. It's like, what am I loving? What am I paying attention to? And
bingo.
And there's going to be a route for you. There's going to be a place.
That's right. So, Ethan, we got a ton.
Yeah,
I've seen a ton of questions come in. Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
I'm not looking at the chat at all, so
Don't have to. Don't worry about
no
it.
problem. You don't have to. Ethan's going to look at it for you and read the questions, and all you got to do is move your lips, baby.
Okay. And expel air through your vocals.
Yeah. You got to breathe.
David, let's see. No, Carl Lieberman said, Dan, talk about your concept of the wisdom of the hand.
Yeah.
wow, I didn't know I had that concept. Carl, tell me what my concept is.
Come on.
Hey, Carl.
Dude.
Carl, do you got any feedback here? Why don't you tell Dan about his concept of the wisdom of the hand, the shamanic node that he is.
Shamanic
You
knows
unmuted for 1 second, Carl, and then you remuted.
Only my
go.
1
You're
second of fame.
Oh, there it is.
There you go.
Jesus.
Okay.
Let's
So
discuss
Dan, this is from your book, and it's something that really moves me. I mean, you have, you're Mr. Theory. You've really analyzed things, all of the harmonicity, the physics of the tuning hammer. But a lot of what we do is it's not cerebral. It's not left brain. It's right brain. It's a feeling. It's a, and so, you make a sense that you learn to tune in.
I got you.
To the feeling.
Yeah.
That's
right. Okay. So yeah, I now I understand what your question is. So yes, and this is something that fascinates me, and it's actually something that I'm thinking a lot about these days. And it has to do a little bit with what we were talking about. When you first learn to tune a piano, you have this idea, okay, here's a string. If the tuning pin goes counterclockwise, it goes flat. If the tuning pin goes clockwise, it goes sharp, right? So I'm supposed to tune it, so I'm going flat and flat and sharp. And that's kind of, for a lot of people, as far as you ever go with theory. Go that way, it's flat, go this way, it's sharp. Well, you're just trying to get the thing to sound the way you want it to sound and to be stable. And you just do it over and over again, and it's just pure desire. You don't really know what your hand is doing. You don't really know, but all you know is what you're looking at is this sound that's got to be there. And you just do it over and over again. And eventually that desire translates into solid state, like accuracy and stability, which is what piano tuning is all about. Now, can you analyze what's going on in there in terms of the physics of the hammer and string? Yeah. Can you analyze what's going on there in terms of what you're hearing? Yeah. Can you analyze what's going on in terms of what happens when the sound comes in your ear and the feeling comes into your hand, and they go into your central nervous system, and then something comes out at the other end?
Yeah.
You don't have to know what that is to make that connection. And I think that's what you're talking about.
Is what Carl's talking about.
The wisdom of the hand. It's kind of this loop, this restructuring that goes on in here, so that the hand feels, the ear hears, and the hand does, right?
Yeah.
And that can happen when all you're thinking about is the product. Okay, you don't need to know what's going on, but I think it's kind of fascinating what goes on in there.
If you're interested in it.
That's kind of where my interests lie these days, is that inner part of the loop. But I think that's what you're talking about, and that's what, a baseball pitcher, let's say, or or a musician, right? So you have the people who are incredible musicians who often aren't terrible teachers of music, because for
Yeah.
them it's pure desire. I want this sound. I'm a piano player. I want to create this tone. I have this music, and
Right.
it comes out. It's like, well, gee, the student wants to know, what did you do? You've got the analytical ones who are like, okay, imagine that you're holding an apple. They have like lots of ways to kind of get into that. But the analysis is not required to have
No.
happen. And in fact, the ones who are the real masters, the craftsmen among us who have the golden hands, it's not analysis. It's just that pure desire that has
In
that.
the beginning of,
Right. But the people like me who stand back and look at it and say, what the heck is going on? That becomes a subject of fascination and a contribution we can make. Somebody who's a pitcher, a natural pitcher, he starts to lose his curveball. And some coach is going to say, oh, your foot is going back too far. Okay, so that's a help. But that's
yeah,
not
no.
what's going on in the pitcher's mind while he's thinking about that ball. All he's thinking about is, see that spot? That's where this ball is going. Boom,
That's right.
there it goes.
Awesome. Ethan, next question.
Okay.
Sure. And the asker of this question said, maybe we don't have to ask if we don't need to, but I think it is a good question because I think a majority of people on this call are going to be from all places all over the world. I kind of know what it is like to be a piano tuner in Brooklyn, but a lot of people don't know. And so the question from David Skolnick, who may also know a little bit about it because he's not that far away, but he said, what is your life in Brooklyn like, the new center of culture?
Carl's cackling in the background.
Cackling because he came over to my place. He was wandering around Brooklyn with his wife and like rang our doorbell. So
when did that happen?
What was that?
So Brooklyn is
wait. When did that happen that he visited you in Brooklyn?
Right?
When?
Oh, wow.
A few years back.
3-4 years ago.
Yeah.
Just rang the doorbell. That's awesome.
Brooklyn, I mean, I never thought I'd like living in a city. I got dragged here in 1978. 1978, kind of against my will, and didn't like it for a long time. Finally moved to Brooklyn in 1990, started to like it. Now I love it here. So, but I have kind of became a city guy in sort of the same way I became a piano tuner, sort of just by surprise. But I love working in Brooklyn because I don't like driving, and it is a liability to drive in Brooklyn. In the part of Brooklyn that I work in, I do it mostly on bicycle, and most of my work is in Manhattan. We moved here from Manhattan, so I used to work in Manhattan, and it was all subway and bus and taxis and stuff like that, public transit. So I kind of sculpted my whole way of working and my toolkit to be fairly light. I have stuff in a backpack. It weighs 20, 25 pounds. And I just tote that around. And I love the challenges of it. I love the clientele. I love the whole thing. But yeah, it's definitely a different experience. When I go to conventions and I talk to my colleagues, Isaac Sadegurski, who's got his van, that's got everything in it. It's like that's so different from the way I work. But
radically different.
I've come to terms with it, and I wouldn't change it for the world. I mean,
there
if
you go.
I was going to have to relocate to some other place where I'd have to drive, I'd say, well, I'll do something else, because if I can't,
thank you, brother.
Yeah, if I can't work this way, I really don't want to work.
Thanks. That's a fascinating insight into you. Thank you. Next question, Mr. Janney.
All right, let's see here. Joshua Martell asks, how is tuning evolving? what new directions are you excited about?
Interesting. Interesting. How is tuning evolving? Well, I
If
don't know
any?
that I can address that well, but clearly, and what's obvious to everybody, is the rise of the electronic tuning device. And I have to say that I am a big fan of the ETD. It's a huge part of my daily practice. I don't think I would be leaving pianos for my clients in as good a tune. I wouldn't be providing the same high level of service that I'm providing without the ETD. At the same time, I don't think I would providing that unless I were able to tune at a high level orally. So I tune all with a tuning fork and my ear, and as Isaac Satigersky says, what's between the ears, for 25 years. And I resisted a long time before I started integrating the ETD into my practice. And I think that
And that's the key word.
you
That's the
can't-
operative word, is integrating.
yeah.
You know,
But
you're a
I
hybrid
don't
tuner.
think you're ever going to really, you're tuning for people's ears. The ETD is a tool, right? So how is tuning evolving? I think what we're going to wind up doing is keeping the primacy of the ear in terms of tuning and seeing the different ways that ETDs can be integrated into a tuning practice. So that's going to be interesting to say. I mean, I know how I do it. I know what my approach is. It works for me. I did a little thing at a convention a few years back where I had some really fine oral tuners who do use ETDs all the time. And we talked about, well, how do you use it? And everybody had a different way of doing it.
That's right.
They all loved the ETD. They felt like it was a step forward. I never want to go back to being completely with my ear, but they were all using them in different ways. And it'll be interesting to see in the future how that finally comes together. But it has to. And the ear always is going to be the deal. And more, I think we're starting to realize as a community the importance of touch. What the pianist feels with the hands and how that impacts the ear. I have had many experiences where I've had someone say, God, this note sounds wrong. Or the piano something sounds wrong. And it's a mechanical thing. It's something in the action, something in the pedal. And you turn a screw, you fix that problem. You don't do anything with the sound, and suddenly it sounds so much better. So the whole experience of the pianist, I think, has a lot more to do with what's coming in the fingers from the piano than we recognize. I mean, the old-fashioned idea was, here's this key, we come along and we push it down, right? And there's a hammer, it hits the string. We're realizing now that there's a lot going this way, but there's an awful lot coming this way. And when we start to feel like, okay, what is the pianist getting back through the keys from the piano? Not just the ears, then the experience of playing piano really becomes more vivid. So I think there's going to be a lot of that in the future. A lot of that. You know, it's interesting. You remember that experiment they did in Russia where they had a number of really fine grand pianos, blindfolded some really fine pianists, and had them listen to the different ones and then see if they could tell them apart by ear. And, could not. But have them sit down blindfolded at the piano and play a few bars. Now they could tell instantly. The pianos were now vividly different from each other, because of that experience of having your hands.
That's right.
And I think this is going to be really key too when we're talking about Okay, so we're going in the direction of more of going away from wood into materials like carbon fiber, man-made materials that are more homogeneous. And this is something that I think we haven't talked about a lot in the industry, but I think we will. There's a different sound that comes from a note where the chain of transmission has gone through a wooden key and through a wooden hammer to a metal string and then through a wooden soundboard into the air. There's a complexity that happens as that causal wave passes through all that stuff that comes from the wood. There's a variation in the material through which all this is passing that's inherent in wood. That's a natural sort of randomly structured thing that gives a kind of texture that I believe comes out in the sound.
Well,
Same
you know who,
soundboard.
you know who,
I tend to think of it as being like someone who's painting on masonite is going to have, there's going to be a certain texture to the finished product because there's this very flat, very smooth ground, and that's perfectly fine. But you paint on canvas and there's a kind of texture given to the visual experience that comes from the canvas. And I think there's a lot of that in the sound of a piano, and I have a feeling we're going to start realizing where that comes from, and it's going to be an interesting factor in the discussion about composite parts and non-wooden parts of the piano, soundboard, action parts, that sort of thing. It's the sort of thing that you really do feel and you really do hear at some level. Anyway, that's it.
Great. Excellent answer. Appreciate that. Let's see here. What else do we got? So that was a tuning evolving question. This was just maybe a rhetorical question, but it was going back to the comment that you brought back from Dale Irwin about you can't teach someone to be interested or something.
Well,
Forrest Halford has said,
he said, I can't teach you how to care.
To care,
and
right.
Dale, I will never care the same way you do about that. And so I will never, I could lock myself in the shop, but I'll never do the work you do because that's not what I care about. And that's not my engine. That's not what drives me from one day to the next.
Yeah.
So Forrest Halford said, perhaps rhetorically, can you teach someone how to be fascinated? And that seems like it's kind of the extension that you're saying, right? It's like caring, having an obsession, having some sort of connection with a certain aspect, right?
No, I think it's more the other way around. What am I obsessed with? Okay, let me go with that. Because it's that engine. If the engine, if the engine isn't pushing you, you're not going to be able to pull yourself in that direction. It ain't going to work out. I mean, like if I tried to make it as a businessman, it's like the money just doesn't have an attraction for me. You know, I just don't care. So put me in business and I'm going to fail. I'll be as bad as Donald Trump in business. I mean, I'm going to fail time after time after time because the money just doesn't motivate me. Somebody else, that's a fascinating thing as a driver. Great, go with that. We need people. We need Steinway out there, running a business, making pianos that we're all going to buy. We wouldn't have them, but everybody's got their place in this world, and you don't choose what it is that really grabs you, but you can choose how to hook yourself up to that engine in a way that's going to be to the benefit of the whole community. We need all of us. We need all of us. We really do, I think. The ones who have every approach.
Well said. David Stillman made a comment here, which is worth maybe calling out. He said, I love the use of the term having a piano tech practice rather than a business.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, I guess. I mean, I never thought of myself as a businessman. So I guess I am, right? I mean,
You are.
but that's kind of like, that just sort of happens.
That's the incredible depth and breadth of the demographics of piano technicians. I know some piano technicians that are just like killer business people.
Oh, yeah.
That just
I
kill it.
love it.
Oh, go
Because-
love it, get it, do it, expand it, make it
Because
beautiful.
if I had more of that, I would be doing better service for my clients, I think, because I would see more opportunities. I'd
Woulda,
see,
coulda, shoulda, woulda.
you should buy a different piano. Let me help you find another piano. And like 10 years from now, they'd have this fabulous instrument. Whereas with me, I'm like, we'll work with what you've got, and that'll be good.
Yeah, I'm more
And
aggressive.
not giving them what I could give them if I were more sort of in a business head. It's what we call the Goyischer Kopf. That's what I've got.
Well, yeah, we need to talk about that more offline too, because there's
so far, so
another
good.
way for you. There's another way for you to frame it. Let's just put it that way.
Okay, fair enough.
All right.
Yeah, but suffice to say, it's okay also to want to shift. Some people will want to shift how they approach things. Maybe they spend a period of how they work where they're, more focused on the practice and less on the finances. And then one day they say, I want to explore business,
Very true.
We even have, I think it was Eric, he just made a comment actually. Eric Johnson. Yeah. He went off to go study business and came back. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like,
we
but
need
then
them
probably.
all. Yeah. And people change, right? That's a wonderful thing about the piano
game. Exactly right.
Is that if you change, there's going to be a direction for you.
That's right. That's exactly right. And this is what I stand for in every class I've ever taught and in every mentor relationship I've ever been in. What the things that you're saying. I'm just sitting here like davening almost when you're speaking, because, this is what makes what Willis Snyder used to say, this is what makes the high end, not 9-foot pianos, this path of excellence. And you're on your own path of excellence that makes you excited, not anybody else. You.
I'll buy that. I'll buy that listening to it. But it's one of those situations. It's like, I almost feel like if you're walking on a tightrope and you're doing fine, don't look down. So I start thinking about, excellence. Suddenly I'm like, it's just.
You just do it.
Just do it, yeah.
Well, that's it.
Some things
it can only be
when you
driven.
talk about them, you kill them, So there's some things I like to just like.
Exactly. And the high end takes a special kind of something. And what I think that something is, by and large, is focus and attention. Entering the world of sound or the world of feeling, not the world of what's this, not the world of comment and critique, the world of feeling and sound.
Yeah.
That's where I've had the best time and done the best work.
Yeah. Yeah, clearly.
When I stayed in and walked deeper into the world of sound and feeling.
Yeah.
Because we got the basics. It's just a matter of practicing them with a ton of attention, man. And in order to do that, we have to have exactly what you're talking about, which is love. I like this. That's why I'm going to focus on it,
Yeah, it's
all
yummy.
right.
What is yummy?
What is yummy?
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
It's yummy,
That's the greatest existential
better.
question of life. Eric Johnson's got a question. Jeez, I thought he knew virtually everything.
And I don't know if this is a new one or not. I'm going to go to this one he asked a few minutes ago. Speaking of Eric Johnson, what can you say about pure 10th tuning? There's a lot of talk about pure 12th.
He corrected that to perfect 12ths.
Oh, he corrected that. Oh, I was going to say. Okay.
Tuned by perfect
Yeah, what
12.
can you say about perfect 12th tuning?
Yeah, I can say perfect 12 at what level? At the 3-to-1 level? At the
Says the
6-to-2
shamanic
level?
node.
At the 9-to-3 level? I mean, what level is the 12? That's my question. I mean, because we all know well enough that we no longer say a pure octave. We know that because of inharmonicity, we have to, if we're talking about a pure octave at all, and why do we need to? But if we're talking about, oh, I'm tuning pure octaves, we have to say, well, is it a pure 2-1? Is it pure 4-2? Pure, whatever. But we don't seem to have figured that out as 12th. I think we assume we're talking about 3-1-12ths, but I want to know if we are, because it's not the same.
Describe what you mean. Describe a 3-1-12.
Well, so are we matching the third partial of the lower note?
Yeah.
The first partial of the upper note. If that's an exact match, then we have a pure 12 at the 3-1 level. But in all pianos, if it's pure at the 3-1 level, it's going to be narrow at the 6-2 level, which is a very audible, it's apparent to your ear.
Right.
And all the other higher ones too, they're all going to be narrow, just like an octave. If it's pure at the 2-1, it's going to be narrow at all the higher levels.
Which is why.
Right. So if we're talking about a pure 12th, I mean, my first question is, which perfect 12th are we talking about? And I'll also say that my experience is all things being equal, and all things are never equal, but all things being equal, I tend to like a tuning that's fairly generously stretched rather than one that's narrow. But I can't, my ears don't hear a magic point where it's like, that's the stretch that blows my mind. And if I made it more stretched, it wouldn't be as good. And if I make it tighter, it's not as good. But when I get to that point, it's like the earth moves. It's like, I'm sorry, I don't hear that. So I'm not saying it's not there, but I'm saying I don't hear it. What does it for me is the unisons. Man, I hear the unisons, and I hear everything else. I hear the hammer. I hear the tone. I feel stuff. That's what really blows it out of the water for me. The stretch of the tuning, I tell you, frankly, and there are times when I'll make a tuning very compact, because of the situation, because of the time of year, whatever. I've got the chops that I can put the tuning wherever I want and make it work. And if I choose to make it narrower, I'm fine. If I sit there then and play it, I'm like, yeah, it does it for me. I mean, so this may have something to do with me as a musician. I was never the guy who liked to practice. Yeah, from day one when I was taking piano lessons, it was like, okay, I will practice, right? But I'd be playing along, I'd stop and say, ooh, so what is that? Look, there, what's that chord? And look at this line, And eventually my piano teacher was like, tell you what, why don't we start studying counterpoint? And it was like, now this was great. It was like, finally I was looking at the structure of what was on the page. And I didn't have to, I've done my practicing. I can get around on the piano, but I was never that guy, right? So, so when I sit at a piano and I'm playing it, if it gives me the concept of the piece, then I'm fine. So I'm not the judge of the magic stretch of tuning.
We are almost,
but I don't hear it. I'm going to be honest with myself and with you. I'm hearing unisons. I'm hearing tone. The stretch, fine. Yeah, all things being equal, let's make it kind of on the wide side.
Well, in the best possible situation, in my good tunings, in the master tuning of the Rayburn Cyber Tuner, you don't hear any stretch. You just hear awesome octaves, and
Yeah.
I mean, because that's what a pure 12th tuning is. When I play a 12th and it sounds pure to my multi-hundred trillion dollar unit here, my body, then I'll trust it and keep going. So,
Yeah. And that's
I'm-
fine.
I'm-
I just know that that's a world of experience that I don't have access to.
wow.
That's not me. And
So
I'm gonna go right out there and say it, because I've heard my whole life in the piano tuning community this idea of the tuning on a piano that's gonna make that piano just be something. And it's a place I don't really go. I'm just being
fascinating. Listen, we could go another hour so easy, but we've got actually 2 minutes left.
You're kidding.
I am not. So we have to have you back.
Quick. Yeah,
we
definitely.
have to
We've got
have
a
you
bunch
back.
of questions in the
There's
chat.
a ton of questions in the chat room. You're a
shamanic node. We've already established.
You're a shamanic node. And people pay attention to you, so they want. So will you come back?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
Awesome.
Ethan will figure that out in terms from a logistical point of view, right?
Yeah.
And we'll have you back soon, because everybody's going nuts in the chat room, dude.
Oh, really?
Yep, a lot of thanks.
I've rarely seen it like this. Yes.
Yeah, a lot of thanks. You demand. Great talking.
A lot of thanks. A lot of you demand.
Thank you, Dan. Come back.
Well, thank you guys.
See?
Fun.
You're you're an East Coast shamanic node,
thanks,
dude.
Dan. Thank you. Thanks for sharing.
Shamanic no.
I love this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, David. Thank you, Ethan.
You will be back. Ethan.
Yeah, I'll sign us off here in a minute.
Best partner ever. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Thank you. And it's great to have a bit of a discussion about, things that we might have different opinions on too, of course.
Oh yeah.
So
that's what makes the world go around.
Yeah.
We put some links in the chat, so grab them before you leave. By the way, folks, if you ever want to grab the chat, there's a little, I just learned this actually myself. There's a ... next to where you enter your comments. You can click on that and you could say save chat. And I think anyone can do that. So if you can't, then I'm sorry. But I think you might be able to save the chat. So if you want to, you can do that. The links are in the chat to sign up for Radio Hour if you want to have the direct access, so that we always give you the Zoom link without you having to register every week or watch it on Facebook or YouTube. We've got a link so that you can sign up to grab any of our previous convention lectures. The one we just did in December, you can buy them individually or in packages. That's a lot of great content. Amazing. We don't have a sign up for the next convention yet, but we will soon. And we pretty much filled out on our calendar for that. And it's a ton of great people have agreed to partake in this. So I'm excited to report who else will be a part of it in the coming weeks. So that's it. There's a feedback form in the chat as well, so click the link and make sure you give us your feedback. Tell us how much you love Dan, so we can send that back to him and say, see, you really have to come back.
All the comments via email.
Yes. Okay, folks.
All right,
we will check back in with you next week. Have a good one.
Yes.
See you later.
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for giving us an hour of your time. Remember that you can catch us live online every Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time.
That's right. Go to pianotechradio.com to register so you can interact live and ask questions of our guests.
See you next week.